All right. Well, looks like everybody's on that's going to be coming on, so we'll go ahead and get started. Um, Thanks for joining. This is just a kind of first in a series of webinars that we hope to be doing just to get a little bit more information out to the surrounding community and anybody else that might be interested in learning a little bit more about solar for their home, for their business, or just for their general interest. Um, what we'll be looking at today is kind of seeing solar on the commercial scale and seeing in what scenario it really makes sense as something to add to a business. Um, so, with that being said, kind of titled this presentation "Does Solar Make Sense for Your Business?" And hopefully, anybody following along or listening can get a can get a good sense of that after we go through this presentation. Please, any questions anybody has, feel free to jump in. My name is Robert Parker. I do commercial sales here as well as kind of helping along with the project management, job execution for our teams here at Cape Fear Solar Systems. I was born here in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is where our business is located. Um, and we kind of service these surrounding areas. So it's been a great experience for me since joining the team in 2015 to do some projects around the area where I grew up. And seeing those coming to fruition is really the most rewarding part of the job. So I really want to share why some people may have chosen to install solar on their businesses and kind of continue to spread that message throughout our community here. Just as a way to get started, we'll go really basic, talking about how solar physically works. I'm sure many people have kind of seen it up there, at least heard about it, but just how it actually makes electricity or what it's actually doing on these rooftop installations. Essentially, most all the panels that we use and the most common panels are based with silicon as the main component, which acts as a semiconductor for electrons that are excited by light. And that photovoltaic effect, that's it taking place. And those electrons, through the chemical reaction on these manufactured cells within a solar panel, it's then jumping on conductors from there and basically having electrons go down from the panels and then feeds right into the larger electrical system of the home or business. It needs to go through a process where it is inverted from direct current electricity to alternating current. And then it gets used just like any other electricity coming from a utility source or even a generator would be used. No difference in really the quality of the electricity that you're receiving. We get a question sometimes: are the lights going to be brighter or dimmer? Nothing like that. It functions exactly the same. You wouldn't notice any difference in the operation of your equipment in your building. So that's the kind of the first place that the electricity goes is into the building. But at times when you're making more electricity than you require at the home or business, it'll then flow out through the meter up onto the grid at large. And the utility will then, just like any other electricity processing through their grid, they'll then sell it to the next available place that has demand for the electricity. So, because the utility is able to sell that, they allow you to enter a program with them. Um, and here at Cape Fear Solar Systems, we kind of help along with that entire process of filing to be eligible for this program. But it allows them to count every unit or kilowatt hour of electricity that you send back and gives you credit for it on your bill. So at the end of the month, you'll see, okay, I brought in this many kilowatt hours from the utility, of course, decreased because you've made many of those yourself rather than having to bring them in. And then you'll also see on that bill, I sent these many kilowatt hours back to the utility. They'll take that first number subtracted by that second number, and you're billed on the net value of those two. And they call this process net metering, which is very helpful and a good process that you can work in conjunction with the utility to make your home or business more energy efficient. Really, I'm sure the big question many people have is, okay, I understand it works in a certain way, but why would a business make this choice to invest and go through with a project of this magnitude? So the number one reason is just monetary savings. That's kind of what we hear the most from our customers is they want to decrease that monthly expenditure, that monthly operational cost on utility bills. They're paying a certain amount per month because they have to have electricity to run their business. And they're seeing, hey, if I make some of that electricity myself, now I'm paying thousands of dollars less every year in my operational costs. So there's just seeing that top line savings right away, month to month. What goes hand in hand with that as well is that once that investment is made in solar electricity, it's producing in a predictable way. It's producing predictable kilowatt hours year over year, month after month that you've already paid for, that you already know what your investment is on that. And so you can take a look at that investment and, okay, this kilowatt hour, I paid X for it, and the utility rate is, say, 10 cents or so right now. I know that that number that I invested in for the solar is going to stay the same, but utility rates tend to actually rise and fluctuate over time, especially in our area, being relatively low energy cost. The trend has been upward, and the future outlook, it looks as though we will continue to have a little bit of increases in utility rates as we go forward. Duke Energy, for example, was looking for a 16% rate increase back in 2007. They didn't get that entire rate increase. It was more like 7, 8%. But just now, 2 years later, they go back and now they're asking for about a 12% increase. So you kind of see that 7% one year, possibly 12 to 10% just a couple years later. Knowing that your electricity is coming from solar, you're not having to worry about projected increases in what you're paying for your electricity, projected increases in operational costs. You can have a lot more certainty there, have a lot more control over what you're paying month to month. And so that's part of it. And what you're seeing right away, once the solar is in and operational, you have a lower bill coming to you month after month. Um, when a lot of these companies are looking to invest in something, the big question you get is kind of, okay, when will it pay for itself? What's the payback period? Which can vary and has several different ways to look at it. The simple payback period, basically, when that savings on electricity bill is equal to the net cost of the system for commercial tends to be a little bit lower than that 10 years you might see on your screen, kind of more like 6.5 to 8.5 in terms of years. And then to that go along with a 25-year warranty on the system, you really think, okay, I'm going to see that return pretty soon in the life of it. And then getting electricity above and beyond my investment from there. Also, another way to look at it from a cash flow standpoint is, hey, I'm going to be spending this amount of money in electricity and in taxes, and we'll get into that a little bit soon as well. Um, I can continue to spend it just how I am right now in taxes and electricity, or can take a look at doing a solar investment and what my monthly bill is going to be like from there, and my cash flow from there, and when those two line up. And that actually tends to be even sooner, more in like the 4 to 7 year for the commercial space. Um, on homes and businesses, a question we also get a lot is, how does this affect the value of the property? I mean, it's important that asset that is owned by the business or the homeowner, in this case, the business, the ownership of it and the possible resale value of that is one of the most important things. There's studies out there that really kind of help illustrate this, taking kind of like properties and comparing them to each other. But really, the number one way to look at it is, hey, you have this property. that cost less month to month to run than maybe one property that's exactly the same or extremely similar but doesn't have solar on it. So you're kind of advertising to a potential buyer of your commercial property a better net cash flow using that building, a better net operating income, because those operational savings are passed down. The type of modules that we use, the type of solar panels that we use, that 25-year warranty with them also transfers to a future owner. So we would continue to be a system maintainer if you passed your system on to a future owner, and they would continue to get service on their system and know that it should continue to operate. And if not, it's covered under warranty to be replaced. So they can really count on having those lower operational costs if they purchase your building. The tax incentives are really been a driver for solar for many years and continue to be. For a business that is operating and making money, they're going to have federal income tax liability that they're going to have to pay one way or another. And solar is really a great vehicle for taking that from just outflowing to the IRS to paying taxes to, hey, I get to keep a large chunk of what I owe and reinvest that back into my business with a solar system. And it's kind of unique in that way. I mean, you certainly can depreciate things just like that when you're buying equipment from your business, but that tax credit, a dollar for dollar credit, is pretty unique to solar and a really unique opportunity to improve the value of your business, the property of it, cut down your monthly expenditures, and then that cash flow that you would send some to the IRS, now that's reinvested right back in your building till the end of this year at 30%, and then just going down just a bit next year to 26%. So that's a big driver in the commercial space for sure. And then we kind of talk about the risks that you're taking. I mean, it's not a small project to take on most of the time. It is a serious addition to your building, so something to really consider. Um, but you're not thinking about um, having to meet certain demand or when you're maybe investing in something that's going to build more product for you or something like that. The only thing you're really worried about is, hey, am I going to use electricity and is the sun going to come up? So if you are going to continue to use electricity in that building and there's continue to be sunshine beating down on your building, you're going to be able to see that return on the investment that you put in. Um, and again, it's money that you're not going to get out of spending. If you're going to use electricity in your building and you're going to pay your taxes, you're going to spend the money one way or another. And this is just, it gives you really a choice that, hey, I don't have to spend all that on the utility and on the IRS. I can have some of that be part of my business and be in control of that portion of it. So we see returns between internal rate of returns between 8 and 15% on these commercial systems. Again, that has that 25-year warranty. And then if you go with a company like Cape Fear Solar Systems, we've done many systems like this, been around for about 12 years and know how to design them and most importantly, how to maintain them. So you're not having to put money back into the investment because you're getting a warranty that includes labor, includes monitoring, and includes anything that needs to be done to keep that system running as it was promised to be running. The other thing about it is not something that you have to get up every morning and switch it on or really uh, have to really pay attention to it at all. It just is part of the functioning of your building itself. It turns on when the sun comes up, it turns itself off when the sun goes down. You have the ability to monitor it through the computer or your cell phone, but so does Cape Fear Solar Systems, and so does the manufacturer of the equipment. They can all see that if it does have an issue, it alerts you by email, and then that can get fixed through warranty. But maintenance wise, it's not something that you're having to pay attention to. You can just forget about it and know that it's up there operating and you're just getting cheaper bills every month. In terms of kind of cleaning it off. You can have somebody wipe it down with water and hose or something like that, but it's not really much maintenance outside of that. Not something that has to be, tweaked, have its oil change or anything like that year over year. It's just up there performing for you. Um, and then the other kind of big factor that we see is businesses wanting to be good, stewards of the environment, community-minded businesses that want to show, hey, we're trying to reduce our carbon footprint, possibly. We're trying to have a clean energy source for our business operations. So yeah, it might benefit a lot on the financial side, but at the end of the day, I mean, you can't really be getting cleaner energy than just what's coming from the sunlight that's already beating down on your building overhead. So you have really a lot of certainty where your electricity is coming from too. The grid continues to improve, getting cleaner, but you really don't know where your electricity is coming from on a day-to-day basis. When you have a rooftop solar system, you do know. You know that a vast majority of your electricity is being generated right on site, very efficiently and very sustainably. It also helps your company be recognized, especially in the kind of the consumer goods, or if you're trying to, differentiate yourself from some other companies, you can really show, hey, we're paying attention to how we're impacting the community around us. We want to be sustainable, self-sustainable, working within our local environment. So, and that's something that we really see a lot of businesses feel that it reflects well from the feedback that they get from their clients, and really is just another way to kind of get noticed as well. So that's been a driver as well. Again, that asset is going to just continue to perform. And the other part about that is kind of the independence that you have going along with it. You're not beholden to rate increases, where your electricity is coming from, and other stuff like that. You're producing your own power on site. Let's see if this video here works.
Hi, I'm Robert Parker with Cape Fear Solar Systems here at Farm Fresh Produce, where they're using the power of the sun not only to grow their sweet potatoes, but also to power their facility. This system consists of 260 sun-powered photovoltaic panels delivering 91 kilowatts of power, saving them thousands each year in operational costs.
I'm Steven Ciccarelli. I'm CEO of Farm Fresh Produce. I should have done this a lot earlier. My family's always been about sustainability or recycling, and just, doing a lot more towards carbon footprint and, contributing as much as I can. Most of our customer base, a lot of our businesses export, and we kind of have a lot of share the same ideas or ideologies in that regard. So for us, it just made sense to try this out. I got a 2 and 3-year-old. Question of basically showing them that some things, it's not always about business. Looking at it from a profit and loss standpoint of it, putting a message out there in terms of being a little bit more responsible. Really, what we were anticipating was maybe interruption in our business during the whole process, and that really was not a factor at all. We were able to go about our business just like every day. At the same time that Cape Fear was installing the system in for us. It's just been a great transaction.
So that's one of our customers that's in the agriculture space, and that's kind of been a big growth area for solar as well. And really just interesting to kind of see their product of sweet potatoes really using the sun to grow the product, but also now they're taking that full circle and even using it to do the daily packaging operations as well. Obviously, you can see up there lots of sun available to them on that roof surface. And so there's really been big adoption. I mean, like that's an example of a local company, but many large brands have seen these advantages of solar as well that we touched on earlier, from the operational savings to the tax savings, to that example of environmental stewardship, from the huge new Apple campus, which is utilizing sun power panels. There's many Costco's, the Target, even in Wilmington, has solar on it as well. That's really becoming really widespread on these commercial rooftops, as they're starting to see um, how the tremendous upside of adding solar to their business. And then here's Live Oak Bank, which has been a great example for the Wilmington community of a great business. We recently did a solar installation for them. They do a lot of solar loans in the farm space. So really wanted to show, hey, why don't we save some money ourselves and adopt solar here on site on our campus as well, since we're working on so many solar projects. So I'll just play this video shortly so you can kind of see what that looks like in the installation here. So that gives you a good idea of what that installation looked like, and kind of seeing um, that particular roof surface, the standing seam metal. You just can kind of see how that process went, kind of clamped on to those individual seams, then rails on top of that, and then the panels then get attached there. So that's one thing. There obviously is many different roof types for the different types of businesses, whether it's a flat roof, metal roof, shingle roof. All that takes different engineering into account, which is really important, for hurricane force winds, especially in the Wilmington area, that engineering is done meticulously, and completely applicable to that exact installation and that exact building. So with that being said, we'll take a look at a couple of things to be mindful of when you're looking at possibly your commercial building, to see if it makes sense to add solar to it. Number one, it's going to be most straightforward if the building owner is the one who's going to make the investment in solar. I mean, in some kind of like long-term lease scenarios, it can still make sense to do kind of a DC upgrade on the building, kind of in a partnership um, with the building owner. But most of the time, it makes most sense if, hey, I'm the building owner and the one investing in solar is kind of the most clear cut from a tax standpoint, and really the one that makes the most sense. Number two is looking at like the physical build of the building. Ideally, you want some southern exposure. It doesn't have to be directly south. can even face east or west a little bit as well, even as long as it's not really steep and facing north. You're going to have a direction to put panels that's going to be applicable for your building. Of course, a flat roof can always work because you can angle the panels when you put them down. Angling the panels on a sloped roof is normally kind of counterproductive. The additional equipment required, the additional engineering to meet those wind loads isn't really worth it, rather than just having it flush and parallel to the roof facing that direction is going to kind of turn out a little bit better for you in the end rather than modifying it. And then the number one thing, no matter what, is the sun exposure. So if you're in a very shaded area, it's going to make it really difficult for it to make sense to add solar to your business. So shade is always kind of the number one factor. But if you have an unshaded area and a large space to be able to put modules, it's going to make sense for your business. And then the other thing is to take a look at your electrical bills. I mean, really, it runs, I mean, on the low end of bills to the really high end. You can make it make sense. But of course, it has to work with your budget, your goals, and all that. So when it works best, it's with when you get with your potential installer, have kind of a collaborative process for putting that design together to meet the goals of offset, of savings, of payback, and all those kind of things that you're looking for, because solar is extremely modular. I mean, you can have a certain number of panels and you can increase that and decrease that on the same building. So looking at the electrical bills and looking at the roof surface are a factor, but also kind of your preference, and ask your installer lots of questions on what really your goals should be. But if you have some goals in mind, it's important to share those as well, because you can really try to design to meet those. A lot of what we're seeing as well is taking solar into account as the building is built. So new construction has grown as a part of our business, and solar kind of nationwide a lot in the last few years, as architects, designers, and builders are really starting to notice, hey, I can build this house with a lot more value and a lot more potential for either myself who's about to live or work in it, or a client that I'm building it for, by having some electricity generation on it. Or not only that, but really differentiates that building as it's coming up from others, and area expertise that you can add to your ability to build. So that's been a big thing. It's helpful. You can really design the roof surface to be at an optimal angle, an optimal direction, be able to utilize it. And then also the electrical service as well. You can have that wiring run with all the other internal wiring of the home or business. So it's hidden, it's an easier run. So you can maybe decrease a little bit on labor costs there as well, and kind of have that synergistic and holistic process of having solar as part of the building and design. It really can make the project make a lot more sense. So that's really all that we have for the presentation. But again, I want to open up the floor for questions, and then also want to encourage everyone to reach out to us on our website, capeyoursolarsystems.com. There's opportunity to email there with any other further questions anybody has. See a lot of the projects that we've done, and if you want to have something specifically put together for your business, that's all something that we do as kind of a complimentary service to really help people understand what it entails, and you can put that together. So thank you so much for attending, and we hope to see you guys in a future webinar.